Thank you, Zane. Great to be with you here. I think Untitled and each forum have a tremendous convening power, gathering so many people from all sectors of society and in the world on these important subjects. I'm glad to be here. I think the words that I recall from this morning very much are transformation. I was going to speak about the need for rapid evolution, but here in this room we are turning into revolutionaries. Calls for revolution have been coming from this stage, and I think it gives us that sense of urgency, which is so important. I belong to another category of optimists. Christiana was the type of optimist that you heard her describe. I'm a worried optimist. I'm a worried optimist, but I must stay optimist in order to get action and also mobilize the hope rather than the fears, which is a la mode in political life, unfortunately, all over the world now. So now we have to mobilize all the good forces, and you are those good forces, and turn the direction in the direction which is absolutely necessary. I know in this room there are a couple of people who have worked with me on the Sustainable Development Goals when I was Deputy Secretary General, David Nabarro here. Before him it was Amina Mohammed. Christiana Figueres did the fantastic negotiation of the Paris Agreement. And I don't think the world has quite realized that we have two new fantastic tools in our hand that we must use. One is the Sustainable Development Goals, and the other one is, of course, the Paris Agreement. I'm glad the Crown Princess is here. You are an advocate for the Sustainable Development Goals. I know you have a particular passion for water, which we share. But I think it is important for us to see that these tools are there for us to use. And I really want you all to do this from the different perspectives that you represent. And I want to just, in my remaining 5 minutes, try to give you 5 pieces of advice on the road to achieve these goals. I think in the world we have spoken a lot about the answers to the question what, but in this room we don't need to discuss the what. The question that is the most important to answer is the how. How do we achieve this so that we don't fall into hopelessness and passivity? My first word is together. In today's world, with the complexity that Christiana described, we cannot do it without taking into account other actors. There is no peace without development. There is no development without peace, and none of the above without respect of human rights. So these sectors have to be combined. They are also combined in the SDGs, by the way. And then we have to realize that we should also get all the actors on board. We should work not vertically in silos, we must work horizontally across lines. Governments, international organizations, parliaments, civil society, the private sector, the scientific community, all have a responsibility. Nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. Secondly, my daughter advised me when I came back from a negotiation between Iran and Iraq, having sat with Saddam Hussein and the mullahs in Iran. She said, Dad, you should stop negotiating between these people. You should negotiate peace with nature. That's the second thing. We need to have peace with nature. In other words, a holistic view that everything living is there for us to take care of. Human beings, of course, primarily, but also animals and trees and everything that grows. We have to get back to this basic knowledge of preservation and respect for nature. It brings back almost what the Indians and the indigenous people taught us. There was a negotiation whenever a tree was going to cut down in certain villages in North America, I remember reading. The third requirement for us, the third advice, the third pointer is prevention. The word prevention is used so much that I want to use another word. Listen to the vibrations. Listen to the early warning signals. There are plenty of them in conflicts that I've lived through, but also in poverty reaching the stage of desperation, in human rights violations becoming so serious that conflicts erupt, do act early. That goes for everything here. It's a late warning in the case of climate, but we got to act as early as possible on every conflict in order to answer the question, how? The fourth answer that I think is important to the how is to take away the borderline between national and international, local and global. In today's world, a good global solution, like the one on climate, or on migration that I hope will take place in Morocco in the end of this year, the good international formula is in the national interest of member states. I don't think President Trump is prepared to take that step. He should, because if we see the world as it is, and also realize that what the world should be, we have to make the good international solution be seen as a national interest. We need to take away the borderline between national and international. And also in reverse, building a good society like we, you, your parents, your grandparents have done, not least in Sweden, Norway, countries in the Nordic areas, is a fantastic feat to have done that. To preserve a society which is fair, which works well, which respects human rights, and which distributes resources in a fair manner. That society has a stability, which that means that it's also a contribution to international peace and security. I have seen around the world, in my time as Deputy Secretary General recently, that when you don't do this, conflicts erupt and you have civil wars and you have international conflicts erupting out of these difficulties inside nations. So the domestic and the international come together. My last point is that it can be done. Gunhild said that in the beginning. It can be done, and it should be done. And we need to make sure that we take out the best out of ourselves, but also look around ourselves to see where are my partners. For these SDGs to succeed, we need to see how they interrelated, how they are mutually reinforcing. And by that you mean that you have to look to other sectors that are helping your own sector. Water connects to child mortality, maternal health, education, and so forth. Last point, last quote is simply to give you a quote from one of my, shall I say, teachers, mentors, namely Dag Hammarskjöld. Dag Hammarskjöld, in one of his waymarks, Vägmärken in Swedish, wrote about the future. And he said about the future that it is two things. The future is two things. The future is the horizon. He was a nature lover. He walked and hiked in the mountains. And he said the future is the horizon. I would say the vision that you have for what you want to achieve, based on values and passion to change and so forth. But then he also said in a very good Nordic pragmatic way that the future is also the step you have to take tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. The unending work that it means to reach those visions that we need to have ahead of us. And I think each forum has set the vision very clearly, but also concretely identified what we need to do today and the many steps that we have to take in the next few years and for you all to work with. Thank you very much.